This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Happy Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Happy Hour.
What up? What's happening? This is Happy Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppy. And I got to meet this very funny comedian when I sat in on It's Eric Nagel on Opie Radio on Sirius XM. So I'm very pumped about my guest. On the phone line is the very funny comedian Lisa Corrao. What's up, Lisa?
Hey, are you pumped?
Oh, I'm pretty pumped. Can't you tell by my attitude right now? I've had like 2 energy drinks within the last hour.
Yeah, I can tell. You sound like an excited Frankenstein.
Well, yeah, I get that compliment, I guess, a lot. I mean, you guys sort of said that when I was on It's Eric Nagel. I forget what Eric Nagel kept saying, but if people didn't listen to the show, and obviously they couldn't see it live, what was it like for you as you saw me, and I was really nervous, grabbing the Opie radio mic like I'm trying to, like, strangle it? Like, what was that scene like?
Well, I think that they were afraid you were going to break the microphone because you gripped it so tightly. And I think that there were, like, sweaty handprints when you let go.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, they were worried. They were a little worried. But
yeah,
you were fine.
What's funny, too, Lisa, is by no means am I ripped. By no means am I, like, in great shape. But I sometimes forget, like, that I'm not small. So, like, when I touch things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or when you shake someone's hand or you pat them on the back, they're like, that hurt. Like, sometimes I forget how big I am. And I think that was a situation, Lisa, where I sort of forgot how big of a dude I am.
Yeah, especially next to me because I'm very tiny.
Yeah.
And you're sitting next to me, so you look that much larger. Like, I'm 4'10.5". I'm a tiny little lady. And
You're 4'10"? Wow.
and a half.
Wow.
That's important. Don't forget that half, please.
I promise.
Yeah, important. Because they say that 4'10" is the cutoff for what's considered a little person, like legally.
So you just made it. You just made the cutoff.
I mean, barely. And, people shrink as they get older, so I feel one day I'll be there. But, they're not going to welcome me because I'm going to be like the tall one.
Yeah.
So I'll know how you feel around everyone else.
Well, here's what I want to know, Lisa. Every day of my life until I die, everyone has to go, how tall are you? What's the weather like? Do you play basketball? Like if I'm in the shopping lane at, let's say, some grocery shop or whatever, has anybody ever said to you, Lisa, wow, how short are you?
Yeah, I get it all the time the way you do, just with different jokes.
Really?
People will rest their arm on my head or they'll pet me like I'm a little creature. I get stuff like that. Some people will be so bold as to pick me up, which I really think is inappropriate. You don't just pick people up.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah. And I go right to the old lady argument of, hey, you don't know, maybe I just had surgery or something, as if I get surgeries all the time. But I always go right to that, like, you don't know what's happening under my shirt.
What's it like where I never get to see someone that's more tall than me unless I'm, like, let's say shopping and you see some black guy who's like 7'2" and you're like, oh, my God, that's how everyone sees me. So what's it like for you where every second of your life you just see people that are more ginormous than you? Like, is it intimidating or are you used to it?
It's not intimidating at all because I don't see myself that way. And it's weird for me when I see myself in photos with those people because then I'm like, am I that short? Like, I don't feel that way while I'm walking around. I just have this perception in my mind that I'm taller.
Well, yeah,
In
you're
my mind,
very
I'm
confident.
supermodel.
Like when I was talking to you and when we were first walking down the hallway to the Opie radio room at the Sirius XM building, in my head I was saying you're probably 5'5", just because I'm weird. And whenever I talk to a short person, I try to guess how tall they am in my head. So what I'm getting at is I never would have thought you were 4'10", just because you're really confident and nice. And I feel like a person that would be antisocial, I'd be like, oh, yeah, they're a midget. But I never thought you were that short.
It is shocking to people when I do stand-up too. If they speak to me after a show, they're completely amazed that I'm so little in person because they saw me. Well, obviously they're sitting and I'm up on a stage, but I guess something about being confident makes you look bigger. I'm so glad I'm faking confidence because that's a goal.
I'm learning how to fake confidence, too. Isn't it fun? Because even though we're very self-conscious deep down, we are the best comedians, and I'm the best up-and-coming podcast. Like, isn't it amazing when you tell yourself that you're great and you then believe it?
I've never told myself I'm the best comedian. Unfortunately, my brain is really mean and tells me I'm crap all the time. But when you're actually speaking, you know, you just have to sound like you know what you're talking about. And I've never even been able to fool myself into thinking I'm the best. In fact, I find it annoying when comedians are very arrogant. It's like a pet peeve of mine. Like it's good to not be on Facebook very much anyway, but that's been something that's really limited my time on Facebook because I get so angry when I see other comedians post things like, I killed at this show last night.
Oh, my God, right?
Bragging. I can't take it. And it's made me go, okay, Lisa, for your own mental health, don't look at Facebook. So I'll just check Facebook like twice a day unless I get a notification of an email or something like that. And it's way better for your health. It's better anyway to stay off of that crap. But yeah, it makes me mad.
Well, here's what I've been thinking about, and a lot of people that I've interviewed have said the same thing. For us to go into comedy or radio, TV, theater, whatever, music, we have something wrong with us. So I feel like a lot of these creative minds, we're overcompensating for something that happened in our life. Wouldn't you agree? So a lot of these comics that have to brag, or these radio guys that brag online, they're just trying to feel good about themselves because deep down they're very self-conscious and they're narcissists.
I think so. And I think also with, you know, our lives today with having this online persona, you know, anyone can make themselves look like whatever they want, this ideal version of themselves. So especially with something like comedy where it's not something anywhere near like a doctor where you would go to school and get a piece of paper that says you graduated. There's nothing like that. To be a comedian, you essentially can just go, hey, guys, I'm a comedian. Just like post a picture on Facebook with you at an open mic holding a microphone, and then just start posting, you know, I'm doing a show tonight. Hey, killed it last night, and, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's, you know, it's really the opposite of what being an actual comedian is. I think it's almost important to kind of hate yourself a little bit if you're actually going to pursue it.
Would you say that social media has hurt comedians and radio guys? Because for me, you'll see these podcasts all the time that go, I'm an online radio show, and they're trying to make it seem like they're bigger. So does that annoy you when it comes to the comedian side, where these open micers take a selfie and they try to make it seem like they did a big show? Or do you know that a real comic goes farther? Like, how do you approach that type of social media douchebaggery?
Like I said, I just try to ignore it, Ryan, because there's no reason. It doesn't affect my life, so I don't know why I get so mad about it. You know, it doesn't make any sense why it would upset me. But, you know, like I said, it's good to stay off of social media anyway. It tends to be such a time sucker, and we're already addicted to our phones. So to be scrolling through Facebook, it doesn't make any sense to live that way. And yeah, I can only speak for comedy. I can't speak for radio, but I can see that you're kind of relating to some of the things that I'm saying. And again, like, I don't know, who knows? I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe you have to be you have to be a little arrogant in some ways, I guess, to even attempt it.
Well, you have to be cocky in this business because comedy and radio, from all the comedians I've had on, to me, it's so similar. Like, it's a cutthroat business where you have to watch for your back. So you obviously have to be cocky, and then you have to promote your work online. I just don't like the people that overcompensate and lie to themselves to make themselves seem bigger. So I want to ask you this. What do you think of the douchebags that have to brag about their workouts online? That is when I actually get mad. That actually really makes me mad, Lisa. It's like, shut up.
Yeah. I think that those people, yes, I agree, first of all, super annoying. But I think that what they're doing is trying to motivate themselves more than anything else, because it's so hard to exercise and stay on a diet plan, whatever else. And I think that people believe that if they post it, they'll be more likely to stick to it. So I totally get that. But, yeah, that's another very annoying thing. You know, the internet is so great for so many things. I've seen cat videos that really do make me happy, Ryan. But there's no doubt. I saw a video with a chicken who was friends with a two-legged chihuahua, and I think that is what makes the internet amazing. But there's so much of this other stuff. We're almost a little too connected right now. I need to know what everyone's opinions are and everything. I don't give a crap. You know, it's annoying. It's very annoying, and I'm sure people don't care what I have to say. I'm sure people don't care what I have to say right now.
Yeah, it's weird because it gives you this platform where you think that you sound smart, and every 4 years we have to deal with this where people think they know what's going on with the election. And right now, anybody that's a diehard Trump fan just comes off like such a dumbass. Like, you just come off like a moron, just the reasons you want him as president, you know?
For sure. Did you happen to read what Louis C.K. wrote about Trump?
I did not. What did he say?
Well, you know, I think that is, in any other case, it's the go-to for someone when they hate someone in politics to compare them to Hitler. So normally I would not even read something like that, because it's like when you hate someone in politics, you're like, that person's Hitler. I do it not even with politics. I do it at the grocery store. Someone online in front of me, if they have 11 items and 10 items or less, they're Hitler. So we always go to Hitler. But, you know, I read the article and I thought it was so good. You know, it sounds like it's not going to be a fair article, with sort of considering both sides of whatever your opinions might be. But I thought it really did. And I found it very insightful. And politics in general, I cannot stand politics. I hate this time of every 4 years.
Right.
They're talking about it constantly. I feel like it's almost like football in that people pick their team and they're going to go with it no matter what. And I wish that people would just have different opinions but be able to discuss them, you know, in a manner that's respectful. Yes. And Louis C.K. touches on that in that article too, which I really liked. But that's not the world that we live in now. You know, now people are yelling at each other and making fun of each other for things that don't matter for issues, you know, Trump's hands and whatever else. It's really, maybe Facebook is the reason for all this.
To me, Lisa, the problem is this. At first, it was so funny when Trump had those comebacks at the news anchor, I don't remember her name, the one at Fox News, and he made that joke about her being on her period. And everything at first, all the outrageous things he was saying was great. But now that he's going to potentially be the candidate and the only people he's up against are the imbeciles in Rubio and Ted Cruz, who I despise, it's really scary. Like, by no means has Obama been a great president, but I say this and it gets a lot of people mad. I think we're going to sort of miss Obama once he's gone. I give him a good C-, D+. He's been an all right president. But I think the thing is, and I don't know anything about the election. That's why I didn't really speak up when I was on the show. But I will say this. I get the vibe from everybody running that they want to have the power trip of being president. And Obama's done a lot of dumb decisions. He's done a lot of good things. But to me, the overall consensus from my vibe of the guy is that he cares about us and that he means well. I don't see that with anybody running, and that's why I'm actually sort of scared about this election. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that the thing that I've always disliked about politics is that exactly what you're saying with the power trip thing. I think the mindset to even want that position, you have to have that. You have to look at yourself in this ideal way that you can be in charge of everything, which to me is kind of scary. But you also have to be able to kind of mask that and go, but look, I'm a really decent person, you know? So the thing that's happening now is I think that, you know, Donald Trump in particular is not very good at masking that. It's just like he just looks like a dude who wants to run everything, and is that, you know, I think his pompousness is just on the outside of what has to be in the inside of anyone who wants to sort of be the king or the queen of everything, you know?
The other person that scares me is Clinton, but the scary part is I kind of want her to be president just because she has experience. So I want to ask you this. Since you are a female, would you be cool with her representing everyone as the first female president, or would you not even care?
I would say that it doesn't matter to me whether a person is a man or a woman or what their race is. It's a matter of, are they right for that position? And I feel that way towards what's going on in entertainment right now too, because it's always like, oh, there's too many guys, there's too many white guys, there's too many white people, or there's too many this or too many that. And I just feel like we're so hyper focused on that now that people have to remember that, well, the most important thing is this person right for that, regardless of whatever anything else is. And it's a shame that we've gotten away from that. And obviously things in the past that have occurred have led us to this point that people are like, well, hey, it's been white guys forever. But I'm like, yeah, but people should be judged individually. Well, you know, when are we going to, just because something was wrong before doesn't mean we should repay everyone by being wrong again. You know, that's something I know in stand-up, too, we're seeing that a lot. You know, there was some controversy recently over a comedy festival that was going to charge more money if you were a white guy, like charge more money to enter to try to be part of the festival. And that caused some controversy. And I'm like, what are we all doing? Let's stop.
Would you say that at times you get nervous about saying some jokes because of the whole new phenomenon known as fake outrage? Or are you a comic where you just don't care?
Fake outrage is a thing. I think that's
it's bad.
Absolutely a thing. And, I don't think I change my comedy unless I'm doing it subconsciously sometimes. But yeah, there's I think that's a real thing. I've said jokes before on stage where people complained to the comedy club, you know, and I didn't think it was anything. But here's the thing. I think that no matter what you say, there's going to be someone who will pretend to be outraged or insulted, you know, or offended. And you can't think about that because you would not be a comedian. You can't overthink yourself that much.
I just don't get why people get so mad over words. And it's like, especially when you're going to a comedy show, you're paying to see a genre of entertainment where you're usually offended or it's pretty outspoken. So it's like, what do you expect when it's going to be a raw comic? You know what I mean?
Yes. And the moment any joke is in question, that joke doesn't seem funny anymore, even if it was a funny joke on stage. Once people are analyzing words, that's not what makes someone laugh. So even if even if what the person is being offended by, supposedly, even if it was a hilarious joke, once you take it out of the comedy club and you're like, this is what they said, you put it in writing or you tell someone over the phone, it doesn't sound funny anymore. So it's like, oh, it wasn't even funny. Oh my God. But yeah, I've literally, it's been a while since this has happened, but when I used to be the house MC at the South Florida Improv, they would put out, I don't think they do this anymore, but they would put out comment cards. So they were encouraging people to write stuff about the show on the comment cards. And, no one who's enjoying it is going to write anything. So they would only get complaints on that. So they would get like 3, after doing a weekend of shows where it's like 300 and something people in 7 shows in a weekend. Okay, so do the math on that. And then you get 3 comment cards that say, hey, that host was racist, or she said something sexist or mean or whatever. And then they'll look at that and talk to you about it. And you're like, wait a second. What about what about all the other people that were laughing and thought it was fine? And it does make you question yourself, like, am I being unfair with what I said? Am I being hurtful? Because that's not the intention, obviously, of a comedian. Your intention is not to hurt people. You're trying to bring joy to people. That's the whole idea of it. But there's always going to be someone. I got one time. This person sought me out and actually wrote me an email. So they had to find who I was and find my website and everything like that.
That's weird.
She wrote, this is what she wrote to me. She goes, why don't you stop staring at people's boyfriends when you're hosting shows at the Improv? I'm like, what? I'm staring at your boyfriend. What do you think? I'm on stage going, hey, look at this guy. I'm going to seduce him with my stare and these jokes about farts. Like, what is she thinking? And which that obviously told a lot about that person.
It takes a certain person to look up your name, find your website, and then find the contact section, and then think of what they wanted to type. Like, I'm going to guess it wasn't a few sentences. I feel like she sent you a paragraph or 2. Am I right?
No, it actually was real short. It was really short of just what I said. She's just like, I need to get this message across to you. Here you go.
There's something going on with that couple. I mean, if she's that self-conscious about a comic potentially even looking at her boyfriend, then, I mean, that's ridiculous. And let's be honest here. I'm sure the boyfriend isn't a good-looking guy, but he's very average or ugly, and she's just in a weird world,
Who knows? Jeez, but if you're out there listening, I'm sure you're still stalking me, lady. I promise I was not looking at your boyfriend. Maybe I made eye contact like normal people would do when they're in public speaking.
How often, do you get weird guys that try to hit on you after shows, or does that not really happen?
Oh, no, it definitely happens. As we were saying before, you definitely come across as a confident person. I think that's a big part of it. I think that the comedian on stage, if they're doing well, that I think they're the cool person in the room at that moment. And sure, I get it a lot. Especially, I think female comics get away more than males, I'm sure. But yeah, I get it. And as long as they're not being appropriate, I don't care. It's people show their affections towards an entertainer in different ways, and as long as they're not being gross or weird, then by all means, hey, glad you enjoyed the show. But yeah, I definitely get some weird stuff. I've gotten marriage proposals. I've had people send flowers to clubs. I have one marriage proposal that I got in an email that I actually sometimes will read on stage because I think it's very funny.
It's weird. What does he think he's going to get out of that? You're going to be like, yes, let's go to Mexico now. I just don't get that type of approach,
I know. I'm definitely not a fun person to be married to. I am divorced. It's not it's going to, I don't know what you got out of my couple of minutes on stage that makes you think I'll be, a great person to to tie the knot with. It's not, the reality of it is not a good thing.
Would you say getting married and then getting a divorce, does it like change you as a person and like your view on life?
Yeah, I would say so. You know, they say that the most stressful things in life are a death of a loved one and moving and divorce. Those three are the top most stressful things that will occur. So certainly, I don't have too many jokes about moving.
Yeah.
But I've got, I'll talk about deaths of loved ones, and sometimes I'll talk about divorce. Sometimes I don't even want to talk about it. But yeah, I think it definitely changes you. And it's kind of like finding out that Santa Claus isn't real, you know? It's one of those great disappointments in life where you think, this is going to be great. And it's sort of this big letdown to this fantasy you had built up in your mind. So, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it seems weird. Like, I think I want to get married someday, but it's not even the idea that you have sex with one person for the rest of your life. It's more that you're just with that person forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they think the same thing about you. So you're both in the same boat. So I think that people, the idea of getting married is so cool. Like, you think of just the wedding as this big, grand thing, and people have these delusions of grandeur for the rest of their lives. They're getting they get fancy china and like a gravy boat that you're going to have forever. And then, it's like royalty. You're treated like royalty for this day. And let me tell you, it's downhill from there. It's like, then you're laying there with someone who's like, doesn't like you that much. And you're like, I thought this was going to be the same party the whole time. It's just not. It's the reality hits, and it's like, oh, why did we have that big party? This is just regular life. Kind of boring.
Here's what I want to know, too. What's it like having in-laws? Is it kind of a weird vibe,
No, not for me. Anyway, I'm still friends with all my in-laws. They're the sweetest people
That's cool.
ever. Yeah, they're awesome, wonderful people, and I love them like they are my family still. So, I'm sure people have horrible in-laws out there, the old mother-in-law joke, but I never had much. It's you're all really nice, wonderful people.
So how's the good old dating life been for you? Are you using such hip apps as Bumble and Tinder? How's it been going for you, Lisa?
No. I just focus on comedy, and I don't like to even talk about dating. I don't know what people are thinking. Like, I'm going to be this wild party person, and I'm not. I have a daughter. I'm a single mom. I lead a pretty quiet lifestyle. Other than that, I go out and tell jokes. And beyond that, I'm pretty boring. I'm like thinking about maybe going roller skating today. I'm a huge nerd, and if you haven't picked up on that, it surprises people that I'm kind of a dork. When I first started doing Eric's show, and you're on the show, you see what we talk about. It's all geek culture. At first, Eric was kind of like, why do you like doing this show? And I'm like, I don't know. I love you guys. I love being around you, and I love talking about all this stuff that I love. I like to be home playing video games.
I would think that would bring in dudes because you like comic books, your favorite show is The Walking Dead, you play video games, you're good looking. I think you would be a catch,
Oh, thanks. No, I would have no problem with getting men. That has not ever been a problem. No, I shouldn't say ever. I was a fat kid, and I was a nerd and had tons of zits, so I grew up sort of with being a giant nerd. And in my head, I guess I'm still like that, but I've become, age agrees with me, and getting older, I kind of learned how to be fit and not have zits, and I figured out my hair because I had a lifetime of really bad haircuts.
Does it give you
mullet.
some swagger, though, when you go from having, like, acne and being fat to then being good looking? Does it make you feel important?
No. I forget that people find me attractive, but yeah, that sometimes I look at photos of myself now and I'm like, oh, I'm a pretty good looking lady. All right. Sure. And that's cool. It's interesting. It's weird. I don't know how to handle it sometimes. It makes me uncomfortable most of the time, I guess, because I don't understand the whole world of how a good-looking person is supposed to react. When I started comedy, I would say things about, not being attractive, and it confused people. And my friends who are comedians were like, let's talk about this joke for a second because no one sees you this way except for yourself. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry. Once a fat kid, you're always a fat kid in your head.
Yeah, you seem to fit in perfectly with Giddles, Matt, and Eric. Like, you were like, it wasn't like you were a dude, but you just fit in perfectly with the show. You were so laid back. I loved it.
Those are my buddies, man. I love every one of those guys, and they're all sweethearts, and they're all funny. And I'm so glad that they've brought me in as part of their show. I love it. It's my favorite thing to do is to sit in and talk about, comic books and TV shows and movies and all the dorky stuff we talk about.
But what I love, too, about the show is Eric does such a good job of conducting it where I'm not into, like, geeky things, but I listen because it makes me want to get into it, Like, he does a very good job of making it relatable because a lot of these podcasts, there's so many, like, alerts and you don't know what's going on, but he makes it relatable,
I think that's why it's also good that there's 4 of us on the show because it would be impossible for all of us to be into everything that we talk about. So we kind of all have different specialty areas. And, it'd be impossible to watch every single TV show and play every video game, et cetera. So it's good that we kind of all have a different point of view. And
what point of view do you bring? What's your aspect?
Oh, God, that's a good question. Well, I'm the only one who's a stand-up comedian. We'll start there. Although I find the guys to be extremely funny. I tell Eric that all the time, by the way. I'm like, he says stuff sometimes that I could have been said by a comedian. I'm like, you're really funny for someone who's not a comedian. Like, good job. A lot of times radio guys are, and not you, but radio guys will be so corny.
Oh, thank you.
Can we talk about that for a second? Thank God Eric's not a corny dude. Like, especially morning radio. I don't know what that is.
Oh,
even just the cadence in their voices is almost clown-like. Like the, good morning. Like, it literally sounds like a clown. And nothing is worse. If Eric was that, I would have done one episode, and even if I was invited back, I'd be like, really busy.
Yeah.
But to do E-Rock's show, and Eric is E-Rock, for those of you listening who may not have known that. Eric Nagel is E-Rock. I love to do his show to the point that I've turned down stand-up shows to be at his show. Unless it's a really good stand-up show that I want to be on. Generally I'll be like, I'm busy, Friday nights, which is weird for a comic to do that. I already am sad that I missed so many episodes because of traveling. I wish I could do every one.
How nervous were you when you first did it? Did you think it wasn't going to work, or did you sort of know that you would make it work?
Oh, no, I wasn't nervous at all because Eric's so cool. But, when I first did it, I was just on as a guest, and he just did a straightforward interview. I wasn't on, like, part of the show. And, they just liked having me as a guest. And soon after that, they asked me to come on a second time. And I think we got some nice feedback from some of the listeners. And just it kind of snowballed from there. I just started doing more and more guest appearances, I guess. and now they just welcome me as like part of their little crew.
Now, for people that haven't heard It's Eric Nagel on OP Radio, why should they tune in?
They should tune in because we talk about all of this stuff that is going to fill you with joy, from toys to movies to stuff about your childhood that made you happy. We talk about happy things. We'll talk about things that annoy us sometimes too, because it's part of our lives and it's funny. But in general, you're listening to 4 grown-up kids, and we talk about toys that we can still play with, whether it's playing a video game or reading a comic book or whatever it is. It's all fun stuff, and we get calls all the time. People who say, I'm not into all this nerd stuff, but I really like listening to you. I think that they can hear it in our voices that we love all this stuff, and we just geek out about everything, and it's fun to listen to.
Yeah, that's what I like about OP Radio overall is that I may not be the biggest fan of wrestling, but I love hearing Sam Roberts talk about it. The same thing with comic books, with It's Eric Nagel. I mean, it's just you find some of the best talk radio on OP Radio, which is why I think I was so nervous and geeked out when I was sitting in that seat. Like when I was walking back to the hotel, I just couldn't believe I was on XM radio. Like, don't you get a rush whenever you're doing it,
I do. I love just walking into that building.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you saw even just the fact that I see how nice they are to me, and I see how nice everyone is to other people. If they think you're a good dude or a good, gal, I don't know what would be a cool way to refer to a woman. You're a cool gal. I'm sure that's not the way. They'll be really awesome to you. I thought, when I watched how they were with you and with other people, I'm like, oh, look how nice they all are. I think it's just good people to be around. And I think as a listener, I think people hear that and can kind of tell, like, oh, these seem like nice people,
Eric's one of the best dudes in radio because he added me on Twitter like 3 years ago, and he's seen what I've done, and he's given me some advice that was really harsh, but I didn't take it in a bad way because he's the producer of the Opie and Jimmy show, and he's the operations manager of the channel as well. So I don't take it seriously, but he's also done some really good things to me, like the advice he's given me and then inviting me to New York City. Like, he's just a good guy overall. Like, I'm really pumped that I got to sit in on the show,
Yeah, absolutely. I can't say enough good things about these guys. And, for me to want to do radio with people, it says a lot. Radio is not, my love is stand-up comedy. So for me to even put stand-up aside at times to be able to spend time doing that, it definitely says a lot. But, yeah, it makes me happy just to show up at Sirius XM, and I know I'm surrounded by good people. And I think that's important to be a happy person. I want to be happy in my job and in my life. So I try to surround myself when I can, with people who I think are good people.
Now, before I let you go, where can people find your work online, and what are some of your upcoming gigs?
Okay, well, if you can spell my name, that's the easiest way to find me. There's not a lot of Corraos in entertainment. There's a couple. There's another stand-up comedian who we actually may be cousins. We're not sure. We haven't figured it out. There's also a Corrao out there. Anyway, my name is spelled Corrao. Okay, so if you can spell Lisa Corrao, Corrao, you can find me on all the social media. And any other Corraos, go ahead and add them too. And yeah, and you can find me. I have a lot of stuff coming up in LA soon, which again I'm going to be sad. I'm going to miss a bunch of episodes of Iraq show, but I'll be out there April 24th. I'm on Patton Oswalt and Friends.
Nice.
Out in LA, and some other cool shows out there. And, just look at my social media. If there's one that I want you to come to, I'll post it. I don't post all my shows because I think it gets spammy and annoying. But that's the best way to find me.
Well, Lisa, keep up the good work. I'm glad that we were able to meet and network when I came up to New York City. So it's been a lot of fun having you on Happy Hour.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited that you wanted to have me on your award-winning podcast. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
And it was a pleasure.
Keep up the good work, and if you ever need me to plug anything online, I'm your guy.
You're the sweetest. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Bye.
All right, bye.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.